Hi everybody, welcome to Catherine Sews. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today I'm starting to sew a pair of jeans. And there's enough detail involved in sewing a pair of jeans that I'm actually going to break this into 4 separate videos. So this first video is going to be all about sewing that Western style pocket with the little pocket on the inside. Then the second video in the series will be about sewing the fly front zipper. Third is going to be sewing the back of the jeans with the back pocket and the yoke and all of the seams. And finally, we'll be sewing the waistband and then applying some rivets and a denim style button. So I think it's going to be really fun. I'm using McCall's 6610. I've already done a muslin to test out the size that I think I'm going to be cutting. Remember, when you're choosing your size, to use the finished garment measurements that are printed on the front pattern pieces. I've got a whole video on that. Check it out here if you haven't already seen that one. It helps so much to get the right pattern size. Good, so I've done my muslin. I'm really happy with the fit. I just took unbleached cotton muslin. You kind of have to include the pockets, or at least the front pockets on this. I just drew in the coin pocket. No zipper, no seam finishing, no back pockets. Just get together the basic garment so that you can try it on and check the fit. So I've gone ahead and cut out all of my pieces and I'm ready to start sewing. So if you want to join me for the whole project, make sure you hit subscribe and the little notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload the next set of steps. So with that said, I think we're ready to jump in. The denim I'm using has a bit of a stretch. It's not a really stiff or heavyweight denim, so I'm just going to be using a regular universal needle and regular sewing thread. If you have a heavy denim, then you might want to look at a denim needle, heavy duty thread. You can also look at a top stitching thread if you want your top stitching to be in the contrast color. I'm just going to go with gray though. For the first step of sewing these jeans, I've got the pant front here. And then the pocket piece. Now this pocket includes this stay section. Sometimes the pocket would be more just like this shape, only that big. There's the curve of the top of the pocket. But this one goes right to the center front for what's called a stay. And that is quite nice to have. It keeps everything kind of flat along the front of your jeans. This one is called the front stay, and it includes that extension that goes right to the center front. So this pocket is just a little bit more complicated. This piece is the side front, and that is just going to sit in the corner of this front stay piece. And then this is the little small inner pocket, the right front pocket. And again, this part is just optional, but I like to have that little front pocket on a pair of jeans. It just makes it look more like real jeans. So those are the pieces I'm working with today. The first sewing step is we're going to be taking that piece number 1, the pocket piece, and sewing at the 15 line or the 5/8 line, right along that curve, right sides together, matching these double notches on the side there. Then we'll trim that seam allowance down, turn it. I'm going to do an understitch, an edge stitch, and a top stitch. So my fabric, it's very easy to tell the right side from the wrong side. But if it's not so easy to tell, make sure you're working with 2 opposites, mirror images. It's really easy to make 2 rights or 2 lefts. So make sure you've got your opposites. And then we'll just take that pocket facing piece. And these fabrics just stick together nicely. So I don't think I'm going to pin, but you can if you want to. And I'm just going to come in right like that on both curves. So to clip the curves, first of all, I'm just going to cut them down in half. And then where it's straight here, I don't need to do anything else, but where it's got this quite sharp little curve, I'm going to snip into that. Just make sure you don't cut your stitching. You want to snip enough that it can turn the opposite way and lay flat. Good. Now the instructions don't say to understitch, but I like to. So I'm going to have my seam allowance coming out to my right, and then I'm going to pull that pocket facing over so that I've got 3 layers there. And then I'll just be sewing a 1/16 of an inch or a millimeter on that side of the seam. I want to keep that seam open, right open flat. seam allowance out to my right, facing over top. So what that understitching does is it gives you such a nice edge. That edge is just going to turn so nicely on that curve. And then I can do my edge stitch and a top stitch. And I can just feel that that seam is right along the edge. And I'm going straight into the second side just so I know I'm consistent with my edge stitching and top stitching. And now I'm going to come through again, but this time running the edge of my presser foot along my edge. So there's the front edge of the pocket all prepared, looks good. And then next is to prepare that little right front pocket. Attach that little inner pocket to the side front piece. So I'm taking the top edge and folding it a second time. So just a little hem like that. Press that flat and then just turn under both vertical edges. So now this little pocket is prepared. It's going to sew to this piece that's called the side front. There are circles here where according to your size that top corner should go. This is for B, I'm doing A. And I can just mark that dot with the pin. Good. And then I'm going to do an edge stitch nice and close to that edge, across the bottom and up. And just serge the bottom edge of this and the one for the other side as well. So now we're ready for that piece number 5, the front stay. What's going to help is if I keep track of that double notch on the side. So I want it opened out like that. For these lining pieces, I'm using unbleached cotton that I have pre-shrunk. Make sure you pre-treat it the same way that you would be pre-treating your fabric. Good, so those are going to go on like that, matching up the double notch. I made the mistake the first time I made these of having it go that way because it seemed more logical, but no. Match up your double notch. Match up all your edges. I'm going to be sewing right on top of the serging there and there. So let's throw a few pins in there. And when I'm sewing on a pocket facing on top of the serging, I like to use a zigzag stitch just to keep this laying flat. I just want to flatten that out as much as I can. So I am using a zigzag stitch that's 3 millimeters wide and 3 millimeters long. So now this whole pocket stay is going to attach to the pocket piece, and all we're sewing is right across the bottom of just these 2 layers. This would actually be a nice place to do a French seam if you wanted to. You could sew these pieces wrong sides together and then turn it and encase the whole seam in a French seam. That would be nice. And I'm just going to run it and serge that edge. So the bottom edges of the pockets are serged. And then all that's left is to tame all these edges together. So you can match up that double notch and just make sure that's all sitting nicely. And even right up here. Make sure these come together nicely. And on both sides, you'll sew up, across, and down. Make that a narrower seam allowance. Don't use your 15 line or 5/8 line because you don't want that line to show later. So just use the edge of your presser foot. Alright, so those front pockets are done. Take a second to press them flat and feel proud of your first sewing step on here. Good. So both pockets are sewn, and that was pretty fast, wasn't it? And they look so pro. I'm really happy with the way that jean style pocket with that inner coin pocket is looking. It looks great. Hopefully you're happy with yours as well, and you're ready to move on to the next step, which is the fly front. So if you've subscribed and hit the notification bell, then I'll see you in that next video. Until then, you take care.